tātou. Tūtahi māku I mi ana kia whakatau ka whare, ko taima nei tēnei rā, ka whakanui tēnei koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. E mihi kawana ki Aotearoa waka, te rā, te whenua nei, te kaue, mihi kawana kia koutou. So I'm the person who's holding you up from lunch. So I've got a presentation. It's got a little bit of detail on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this. I'm going to do one of those Chinese slideshows where the words coming out of my mouth are different to the words that are up on the screen. So listen to me and we'll go through the slides. My understanding is that you're going to get the presentation, share with the detail. So I'm going to talk about healthy rivers and tell you a bit of a story about the journey that I've been on. I joined a group of scientists, of doctors, some 2.5 years ago at the invitation of Waikato Regional Council, the 5 River Iwi, Waikato, Tuwharetua, Ngāti Maniapoto, Te Arawa Iwi, and Raukawa. And I felt quite humbled to be in the presence of very distinguished doctors who were experts in their field in New Zealand, and I was the only non-doctor. And I was thinking to myself, what do I bring to this distinguished group of people? And it was a different perspective, a life experience and a different way of looking at things. And so it was a wonderful experience to be part of a group that respected what I was bringing to the table. And reciprocally, I respected everything that they brought to the table. And so over 2.5 years, I was able to learn a lot more about science, and hopefully they were able to learn a lot more about ngā tauranga Māori. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. For myself, I'm from Tauranga. Ko Tauranga te Tumana, ko Wairo Te Awa, ko Te Kura Te Taniwha, ko Te Pātiki, ko Wau Te Pātiki. That's our pepeha for us on the river. So it's all about the water. Without it, we have no identity. And going over to our cousins in the Waikato, again, there's this wonderful pepeha, whakatauki, waiata. And this was part of what Tāwhiao said in the 1860s. Hoki aki nei au, ki tōku wawa koiora, e ona pikonga, e kura tangihia, o te mātāmuri. The river of life, each curve more beautiful than the last. And that resonates in whatever language you say. You just say that little part of that pātere, that little waiata, and everyone understands the kaupapa you're on. So it was wonderful to be part of a journey where everybody all bought into that one sentence. And that's irrespective of, we've got the vision and strategy, we've got the legislation that's in place, we've got joint management arrangements, co-management arrangements, formal relationships with all the different councils, professional staff, all of those things. But at the end of the day, people will make a change when they hear something that resonates with them as a person. And so we were tasked with a very important mahi, and that was to clean up the rivers. And we're not doing that alone, we're trying to do it all together. So the most important thing that the council did with the River Iwi was try to get everybody in the tent. So where I come from back home, you try to bring all the whānau together. One, it's hard to get them into one place. Two, once they're in place, it's hard to get them all to talk to each other nicely. And then actually to talk about one thing, because everybody wants to talk about what they want to talk about. You know, last week, you left something in my car and I didn't like it and you didn't take it and all that kind of stuff. So the council and the River Iwi spent a lot of time convincing everybody that they need to come into the tent. And so it took a bit of time, I think, at least a couple of years, convincing people that they should come into the tent. So it took an extraordinary amount of time, but once we had everybody, wow, powerful group of people. Leaders from all the sectors, leaders from the iwi, technical leaders from around the country and the Waikato, all coming together. What are we doing? A regional plan change to help restore and protect the health of Waikato and Waipa rivers. Now, you probably think the community members get in and they go, gee, that sounds boring, I'll see you later. But the iwi And the council were able to give some simple messages that resonated with all those community groups to make them stable. And I always love that saying, "Hea te kai o te rangatira, he kōrero." Now, what is the food of chiefs? He kōrero discussion. And so there were a lot of discussions at the start. Everybody came from their different sectors, and there was lots and lots of discussions. Hea te tohu o te rangatira, he manaaki. Those meetings that have gone on for now 2.5 years were well attended. And I reckon it's because the food on the table. We always had a lunch. We always had good attendance. You could always tell the meetings that weren't well attended, the little workshops, when they have those little funny local government mints. There must be a container in Auckland that has the supply of those little white mints that come in that little wrapper. And you go up there and go, "Oh, I'm from Waikato Regional Council, well, here's your bucket." And they end up on our tables, and then there's the water, of course. Those meetings not well attended, but all the other meetings, at least two sittings, very well attended. Hea te tohu o te rangatira, he manaaki. Our guests were well looked after. Some of those meetings, 2 days, accommodated, hotel accommodation. A lot of money to do that, but everyone came. They were focused for a couple of days, made to feel welcome, made to feel safe, shared the kōrero, and then they went home free. So, irrespective, this plan change was required by the vision and strategy. There's a national policy statement for freshwater. Everyone had bought into the idea that we're all on the kaupapa, we're all in the same team together. And so specifically we were tasked with this thing called setting limits and targets for nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment and bacteria. And so immediately there's sort of a science perspective coming into things, and it's getting quite specific. But we really wanted to make it really simple in terms of why are you doing that? You're doing that because we want to have rivers that are healthy to swim in, they're safe to swim in, and when you go and collect kai, you can eat it at its most basic. And so every time we got caught up in the complication, the sophistication, the complexity of it all, that's what we always reminded ourselves. Tawhiao's tongi, and then what are we here for? Clean the rivers, healthy food, safe to swim. Keeps it nice and simple. But then we've got to, as Tamati Kruger put, you've got to put the knowledge into action. And so what were going to be the actions that were required to achieve that by everybody? And so to help get everybody to agree, we came up with a bit of a focus statement. I'm not going to read it. It'll be available for you later. But effectively, safe to swim, take food, and it's healthy for everybody. Who's involved in this? This was quite an unusual model. I'd been involved in joint management, co-governance regimes, and I had been involved in collaborations, but I'd never been involved where we actually brought the two together. So there's a fair amount of fear involved about how is this going to work. When you empower a group of people to come up with solutions, they might go away and come up with something completely wacky. There's a certain amount of risk involved in saying, hey, you guys come up with a solution, we'll implement it. So, Vaughan's laughing right now, but I don't think he was laughing a couple of years ago, thinking, crikey days, what have I got myself into? Giving people the power to come up with a solution. So we had the regional council, of course, we had the Five River Iwi, and we had 14 sector groups who'd agreed to come and be involved in this. So it's a big tent, made up of 24 representatives involved from a intense period from 2014 to September of this year, when they'll finish change. So everything, of course, comes from the vision and strategy. Whenever we were in doubt and there was I suppose a stick required, the vision and strategy says we've got to do this. Let's keep on the kaupapa. Every time someone looked to, I've had enough, this is too hard, I've got to go and do something else. Hey, this is vision and strategy, this is what we're all here for. And of course, the regional economy is always important. So the use of land across the Waikato is important to Waikato and New Zealand as the largest producer of dairy products in New Zealand. So it has a significant impact. So the Healthy Rivers Plan Change potentially have a significant impact on the economy. So that was all taken into account. So what was the structure? So we had the Regional Council, the Healthy Rivers Committee, collaborative stakeholder group made up of the 24 sectors. We had a technical alliance where I was down the bottom, I was one of the minions. And we had a group called Te Rōpū Hautu, who were like the managers making sure the glue of everything was staying together. So we had a group of people who were just making sure everybody was talking to everyone and the messages were getting through. And then, of course, good representation across those committees. I'll just go through those quickly. The committee is coming up with the overall responsibility for the review and the coming up with the plan change. And we had Te Rōpū Hautu, and then we had our collaborative stakeholder group. So if you just have a look at some of these sectors, the energy sector, the rural sector, horticulture, rural professionals, industry, water supply takers, dairy, Māori interests, environment, NGOs, community tourism, recreation, forestry, local government, sheep and beef and energy. I don't know any other forums that bring people like that together just for the kaupapa of water. So it was a very interesting group of people. They all come from their own different backgrounds, they have their own biases, and rest assured the sector groups that they represent were on their back every step of the way. So these people really felt the pressure, both in terms of coming up with solutions and their respective groups that they represented. So the role of the collaborative stakeholder group, we come up with these acronyms, CSG. They reviewed all the technical material, and there were thousands, probably tens of thousands of pages of technical data. That was one thing that we were really good as a technical group. We were really good at making reports. And so one of the things we had to do was how do we communicate large amounts of information to a group of people who are in their sectors experts, but not necessarily experts in different sciences and mātauranga Māori. So we had to come up with some ingenious ways of communicating lots of data in a fun way. So there's graphs and things, but we had diagrams, we had wheels, which I'll talk about later on, all sorts of funny shapes and diagrams to explain a lot of information in a simple way. One of the most important things that the collaborative stakeholder group did before each meeting, we would go around Waikato and Waipa, and an iwi representative would tell a story at the very start of the meeting. And we should never underestimate the power of a story. And so when we went to Taupo, we were looking out at the lake, and a representative from Tūwharetua talked about the lake, some of the stories of the place, where the water came down off the mountains and the little stream that flowed into the Taupo and then down to Huka Falls. It was a beautiful story, and it just set the scene every meeting for why we were here. You were looking out at the water, and you were coming up with solutions for the water. So being out on the field was very, very important. I remember one meeting we went out to a restoration happening for eels, for tuna, and it brought home why we were doing this mahi we were doing. So how does it all fit together? So we had to come up with some freshwater management units, we had to identify some values, we had to identify some attribute levels, limits, objectives and policy methods. So that's what we had to do as the work, but how we did it was all up to us. And so in our work we go around the country and have a look at everyone, how they do it. Everyone does this differently. They still have the terms of those outputs, they have to do the same thing, but the way they do it is different, suited to how they want to do it. And so it was a wonderful journey coming up with the how we're going to do it. In terms of mātauranga Māori, so the Regional Council and the Five River Iwi early on made a conscious decision and commitment that mātauranga Māori would purvey everything they do. And there was an interesting tension, I suppose, when we used the word mātauranga Māori, and Tamati alluded to it earlier, and I love the addition of the word beautiful to describe Māori. And there was this tension between, are we talking about mātauranga iwi or mātauranga Māori, this body of knowledge collectively known or owned and shared by everybody, or knowledge specific to a particular iwi. And so we were trying to embrace all of those things. And we had some beautiful wānanga where we had tohunga and kaumātua from different iwi, different hapu, came together to share their stories, and out of those stories we were able to identify commonalities of the things that we wanted to achieve in this plan change. So we were lucky, we had co-governance, so we had our iwi representatives at the decision-making table. So we were confident that there wouldn't be any lost in translation. We had co-management regimes, of course. We had the co-technical arrangements. We had lots of research projects going. And we had some really good waimangas and workshops. So we had workshops specifically looking at attributes and some looking at specific recorded or on the different rivers and how they might be reflected in the plan change or not. It wasn't all about the plan change. One of the things we wanted to do was say that there's a body of knowledge that will be collected and also created out of this project that will be useful in lots of other things. So one of the things we did was collect a lot of the knowledge that already existed. There was at least 15 years of work that had been prepared, but wasn't all in one place. We were able to bring that all together. I was lucky enough to do an assessment report. It's about 80-something pages, bringing together shared understandings in regards to swimming, koko, and the harvesting of food, and special characteristics. And out of that we came up with 2 or 3 different models for looking at rivers particularly. There was an integrated assessment. Hey, I've just noticed my English is spelled wrong. That's cool, man. It's cool when you can go to a conference and the Māori spelling is all correct, but the English spelling is wrong. That's cool. Lovely. And we did this wonderful piece of work called the 1863 baseline. And so we brought together some really clever people and we thought, what did the Waikato water quality look like in 1863? And we broke it down into its little components. Got some kōrero from Kaumātua, and we brought that all together and we were able to package it in a way that wouldn't look any different to people going out in the field today and assessing the environment. And it brought some really interesting themes and learnings with it. One is that when we think of our environment as pristine, it's kind of like a state of mind. We think it's like a euphoric Hawaii, this beautiful place, and the sun is shining and the water is glistening. That's not necessarily the reality of a natural place. And so we had this interesting tension between pristine and natural, where across the Waikato, thousands of hectares of wetlands, with all that organic matter, thousands of birds, because we'd look out at the forest and hear a few birds chirping. Back in the day, there were thousands of birds, and birds do what they do. There were tutai here, tutai there. And so it was quite a different environment. So there was much more life in the Waikato environment, and that was a bit interesting to just have a look at it. So it gave us a place where we might be shooting for. That was very interesting. But how do we turn our values into management? So we followed this sort of train of thought that we'd identified values for swimming, mahinga kai and special characteristics with the iwi. We'd identify the factors that affect those values. We'd assigned attributes that describe the qualities of those values. And then we'd identified indicators of those attributes that could be measured. And then we put those into an integrated assessment. And we came up with 21 attributes. It wasn't necessarily all of the ones that we had from the workshops, our wānanga and the research, but there were 21 that we could kind of identify as things that could be useful. And it's one of those catch-22s. It would have been lovely to have known this at the start of the project, and then we could be looking at ways of applying the 21 attributes. But it's one of those things you've got to take the time to gather the knowledge, assess it, and then hopefully this will be a resource for others who are trying to do the same. And those are all related to swimming, harvesting food, and a rannig. Is that a two-word? Rannig? Of special relationships and characteristics. And I've just made a list of them. Waitemata, the clarity, te rere, the flow, te pai makariri, the temperature. That's one of my favourites. We talked to the old people and they gave us a really good indication about what the temperature of a swimming place would be. Then we go and ask a young person and they're like, oh, it should be about 24 degrees. One saying 24 and one saying 10. Okay, that's interesting. So there's obviously the influence of swimming pools and the people going to the beach. It wasn't accessible before, it has an impact. Waipara, the civil settlement, the homeowner, the safety of the place. The pārenga o te wai, my period marge, what's there, he kai pai, he had the food, te nui ngā kai te wai, balance of fish species, etc. And ngā tarakino o ngā ika rāwahu I te wai, so the presence of pest species, which was kind of like a negative indicator. And then we also looked at ngā kōrero nehera o me ngā mahi, so the knowledge and experiences that people had on the river. We had this wonderful kōrero about particular types of ducks that were resting on particular rivers and streams, and those were indicators that the place was a safe place, peaceful, and as a result of those ducks being there, there would be other things there. So that was wonderful. That all came from observations. We had a few more, obviously knowledge of swimming places, knowledge of places to harvest food, the economic benefit of water, of course, and this was my absolute favourite, Tarawaru, Te Tangi o Te Wai, the sound of water. We had a number of our kaumātua talking about different places. The sound of the water was really important to the identity of the place. And I was thinking to myself, now how can I measure the sound of the water? So I went to a few places to have a listen, as you do. Thinking, this is quite difficult, but it's one of those things where we might not have the answer right now, but it's something that we might move towards. So some of our streams are named after the particular sound that they make. They might have a shingle base in it that makes a particular sound when the water ripples through at particular times of the year. That's just as important as necessary as the water clarity. And then others that are in that list as well. So we prepared an integrated assessment. So we took 18 factors and did an assessment of those based on what we thought might be a scenario for the plan change and the changes in behaviour. And 9 of those were specific Mātauranga Māori factors. So we didn't call them cultural. I suppose that was an interesting thing because they weren't necessarily cultural. They covered a whole range of different things. And then we created this thing. We stole the wheel from down south and we turned it into these things. So just to briefly describe what it is we have all of those factors around the wheel and we said how much they will change as a result of a change in behaviour and action that will come out of the plan change. And so our collaborative stakeholder group made up of 24 sectors were able to look at this and within about a couple of minutes kind of work out it's going to be good in this area and not so good in this area, rather than reading the 80-page report, the 200 pages of appendices and the 500 pages of technical data. So that was one of the things, of the many things that we were able to do. And Mātauranga Māori was a key component of that. I just wanted to, just to finish by I suppose reinforcing 3 things. One was the work that was done by the Regional Council and the 5 over iwi to get everybody in the tent. 2 years. That's a big undertaking. That's how long it took. I think they might want to take shorter than that. That's how long it took to get everyone in the tent. Once everyone was in the tent, they were empowered to come up with the solutions and to lead. And 3 was the continually reminding them what the kaupapa was. The kaupapa goes back to tāwhia's tōnga. It goes back to cleaning our rivers, safe fish to eat, safe to swim, and recognising the special characteristics and relationships we have with the water. Kui anō, whakaaro moi ho tēnei, I kawana kia koutou, whakarongo mai kia hara tēnei, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou. Finished, Auntie.